Well, this is Jenny's Lake on the famous Whiteacres complex in Cornwall, and we're standing on peg 11. Now, if any peg explains the glorious unpredictability of our sport, then this is it, because 12 months ago, this was the peg no one wanted to draw.
The man on that peg, that was John Whincup, and by the end of the day, he walked away winner with £25,000 in his pocket as well. Today, well, it is the finals day. 24 of the country's top match anglers are here, battling it out for the title of Parkdean Masters champion.
It's intense, it's really intense, because you've got to be on the ball and prepared for every eventuality.
You're up against some of the best anglers in the world, not just the country, so to come here and win against them is something I'd really like to do.
Top and bottom of it is you want to win 25 grand, so I think you've got to fish positive, even if it means blowing out and catching nothing. At least you give yourself a chance of winning that top prize.
There's big fish everywhere. You can catch 2 or 3 big fish. 3 big fish could go £40 in here.
Happy to finally make the final. I've been so close many years. 25, 26, 27 and 28 for the past few years, so yeah, to make one, I'm over the moon.
So here we go then, Hughesy. This is the big moment in any final, the draw, and in this match, probably more than any other, that draw is absolutely crucial. What have you seen the other side of the lake that's interesting so far?
Well, there's much of muchness. It's a very interesting lake, this one. There's a number of islands, there's narrow areas. We looked at John Whincup's peg from last year. You really wouldn't want to be in there because it's quite a long island. You're in the middle, you're cut off, but every now and again the fish do get in there. Big difference this year though, there's no overgrowth on no undergrowth on the island, is it? And there's 1 or 2 favoured areas, but lots of people are talking about different areas.
Here we go then, Andy Geldot, who won the Preston Festival, £3,000, and there goes Andy, former winner of course. Hand goes in the bucket. Anxious moments.
Peg 7.
Peg 7.
Andy Geldot there drawing peg 7.
Now that's just to the kind of the lower end of the lake, and that's in open water, and that suits Andy. In fact, that's not that far away from the area where he won it from. Here's Tony Curd, second in the festival, and that's the way it works with this.
Peg 4.
So Tony's drawn peg 4. I think one of the interesting things about this is that the anglers don't really know where they want to be. They'll have an idea, of course they will, but there's not really a breath of wind. It's overcast. It's not as warm as we thought it was going to be. So I'm not sure they know where the figs want to go. He's on peg 0. Now, lots of people said that
Okay, dead
was
ship.
an area that people wanted. Everyone, of course, always watches where Mr. Ship draws. Twice winner of this competition.
Absolutely, he's a bit of a local lad
Peg
as well.
19.
He's from Bristol, he's drawn peg 19. And,
Kieran Rich.
Interesting.
Kieran Rich up next. Des Ship there, having just been up and drawn peg 19. Kieran Rich now.
Peg 9.
Peg 9 for Kieran. And
Kevin
that's
Wadge.
tucked behind that island, right on the point of the island, in fact. There's Kevin Wadge, who struggled last year a bit in the final, but is back to have another go and will be desperate to go one better than he did last year. Had a few chances, I think. He fancied he did pretty
peg
well.
16.
And he's drawn peg 16. Now, traditionally, you can hear the reaction from the crowd.
Cornwall.
16 has been the peg that everyone wanted.
Absolutely. Andy
Doesn't
Power was on
deliver.
that last year, wasn't he?
Well, Andy Power was on it last year and it didn't deliver. And that just goes to prove that it doesn't always work out, as we've already said, the glorious unpredictability of match fishing. Peg 15 for Paul Cornwall.
Andy Power.
Good area now. Oh, Andy Bennett was on his way up then.
Bennett was on his way. Everyone's looking at Andy Bennett at the moment. Andy Power. Now, Andy Power has been absolutely on fire this year.
He's been in everything, hasn't he?
He's been in the finals of all of them. He's not won one yet, and it's not normal for Mr. Power not to win things.
Peg 11.
Peg 11.
Which is the peg John Whincup won the match from last year.
Andy Bennett.
Doesn't look happy, but then John Whincup didn't at this stage either.
Absolutely.
And now we look at Andy Bennett, another angler who's been in several of the big finals this year.
And he's flying as well.
Peg 5.
Interesting area that too. So he's in the mix right
Phil
next door
Canning.
to Tony Curd and a couple of pegs down from Andy Geldot. Paul Canning going up.
It was amazing just listening to the names as they were coming through last night, wasn't it? Just so many big names, and this is a who's who of
Peg 14.
competition fishing at the moment.
Peg 14's in the mix too. Yeah, that's
Matt
just in that
Godfrey.
gap between the islands. Now, Matt Godfrey.
Matt Godfrey, very, very popular character. Always got a smile
isn't he?
on his face.
but he backs it up with, he's a brilliant angler.
Peg
he's-
17.
He's got England credentials now, peg 17, which
Peg
is
17.
right in that right area.
That's my lucky
That's-
number, that one.
Is
for
it
me.
really?
Peg
Peg
17?
My lucky number.
I wonder
Yeah.
if it will be Matt Godfrey's. Paul Burton's another angler. He's not been on the scene a little bit the last few years, but he's one of these guys who always seems to appear in these kind of events. He's another guy who's always picking up brown envelopes, a section
Peg
winner.
1.
All you've got to do is win the right section. Peg
Scott
1 for
Putty.
Paul doesn't look happy, does he?
No, that's not where anybody wanted, really. That's a bit of a problematic peg, that one.
There's a fantastic silence, isn't there? There's just the expectation of
3.
this.
I don't know if he picked that up then, but his hands were shaking when he was trying to open that, and it's a big thing. There's Paul Holland, regular on the UK Championship scene, very, very competitive angler, wins an awful lot. That's Paul.
Knows this venue too, Rob.
Yeah, peg 10.
Oh, he
reaction
pulled a
on
fake.
that.
No,
Okay,
he
Nick
pulled a
Speed.
fake. No, a shake
No,
of
he's
head.
not
Doesn't
happy.
like peg
He's
10.
not happy. Nick Speed. Nick Speed's been in a number of the big uns this year. He's been in 2 of the big uns, in fact, the UK Championship. He was in the
Peg
run
8.
right up at the end. Peg 8 there. Reasonable.
Tom
Now
Scully.
that's off the end of the island, so just into the open water and actually opposite the area where the match has been won from. Of course, it's only pegged on one side now, on the opposite side, Tom Scully.
Why have they done that then?
Well, I don't know. I think the part of it is because we get quite a few people watching and the disturbance this side from the fans, it's not fair to the ones on the other side. I think that's part of it, but I think it also evens it out. I think if everybody's on one side, they're all in the same boat.
I'm looking
21.
at the lineup of all the lads here together, and
Ian
people say
Fish.
that angling is getting older as a sport of competitors, but actually, when you look there, there's an awful lot of 30-somethings in there.
Yeah,
aren't
we've had this a couple of years here in the Parkdean Resorts Masters final, where you see some of the fantastic young
6.
talent we have in the country coming through.
Lee Riley.
They've put the wind up a few of the older names as well. They've really frightened people. Now, Lee Riley's an interesting character too. I heard
23's in there.
a few people saying that he's had a really, really good
Peg
week.
2.
And he's tried for so many years to get into one of these big
Wayne
finals.
Sharman.
Will he do it this year? Peg 2 for Lee Riley. Here's big Wayne Sharman. And goes in the bucket. He was in the match this final,
22.
peg 22, so right down the other end in the shallows.
Simon Fry.
And Simon Fry. Wouldn't it be nice to see Si win a big match like
Absolutely.
this?
He's just been in so many over the last couple of 3 years. I've lost track of the number of times that I've met Simon.
Oh, he's dropped his ticket, Rob.
Oh,
Peg 13.
which one do you pick
Unlucky for some, but actually that's not a bad area. He doesn't look too disappointed, hard to say. Talk about young anglers.
up?
Look at
Absolutely.
Jake. I mean, isn't it fabulous to see a young angler like that get into a big final against all these big names?
Peg 23.
And
End peg 23.
That's just shallow at the other end. Comment from Des, that was probably a moan.
Good old Des. So Ryan's going to take his chance now.
Peg 20.
Peg 20 for Ryan.
Steve Hutter.
And Steve
Finally,
is the
Steve
last man.
Hutter.
Big swallow there from Steve, wasn't it? His nerves must be jangling.
He hasn't got a lot to do, there's only one peg in there. So,
One choice, and peg 12
he's got
isn't the
peg
worst in the
12.
world.
Guys,
Yeah.
you've got your rules. You get yourself off the peg. Have a good day.
And that's it, there they go. It's game on.
So when looking at that draw, what are your thoughts? Having been in their position last year, what do you reckon?
You got to fancy Andy Power. What can you say about Andy's drawn my peg from last year? Who knows? Every year's different on here, but it's an outside bet. My lodge mate, Kevin Wadge, on peg 16. He's had a brilliant week, brilliant 2 weeks. So I'm going to tip Kev Wadge.
I've never actually drawn this area before. Drawn a couple of pegs up a few times, but this is normally an area where some F1s can live and some carp can live here as well. So, but we all know this final, anything can happen whatsoever.
Of course, you've won it.
Yeah. 2 years ago I won it, yeah. And then last year missed out by 1 place on getting in the final, so it was nice to get back in it this year.
Initial thoughts, Mr. Ship?
I got a chance, Andy, I think, which is it is one of the narrower pegs on the venue. I can't reach over. It's probably about 19 metres, 20 metres. But I think the little bit of breeze which we got is blowing down that, and I think the wind's supposed to get a bit stronger. So at the end of the day, I've got a chance, which is all what you ask for on a final like this, don't you?
I can sense a bit of excitement in you, which is great, because sometimes I see you draw and you're sort of, oh God,
I'm
you're
getting old, aren't I?
Well,
I'm getting old. I got old. You've got to enjoy it while you're here, aren't you? But
I love it.
No, obviously I'd love to win it again. Just getting in the final is what that's what it's all about. This festival. About a good week, you know, caught loads of fish.
You've had an interesting little spell in these big finals this summer. You've been in all the big ones, yet to see you win one. I know you know that already. You don't need me to tell you. What's that been like?
It's been a bit frustrating this year. I've come close a few times. I think I was second in Fish Show, third in Match This. Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating thinking about things you could have done different. But you know, that makes you a better angler at the end of the day, I think.
And what are you bringing from that to this then?
Just never give up. I mean, when I came second and third, those two finals were all in the last hour pretty much, so never give up.
Well, this is it. Parkdean Masters is about to start. Any minute now, we will hear the hooter and it's game on. Weather conditions haven't changed that much.
No, it's really, the light's been the same since we got up this morning. This kind of sort of dull feel to it. There's a breeze that's picking up, which is interesting, because I reckon that will make that end of the lake very interesting. Clint's just pressed the buzzer. There's the horn. The match is underway. Would you want an island or would you want open water?
I'd want open water with an island.
Yeah.
I want the both.
That's so Hughesy.
Yeah, but you see, what I think is happening at the moment is I think the fish have pushed over to this side. The open water, yes, that gives them an area where they've not got too much cover around the outside of them, but they've backed off. There's a lot of fish on this side at the moment, and if there's an island that the fish can get behind, they feel secure in it. Towards the back end of the match, I think they'll start creeping round. Key thing for me, I think 16, 17, 18 are looking good areas.
Matt Godfrey.
Yeah, Matt Godfrey. I quite fancy Kevin Rogers' area as well. I think he could be in on it too. And it'll be interesting to see if paste comes into play now too, because I think paste will possibly be a good option.
I've heard a little secret.
Oh, go on.
Kevin Wodge, fishing paste.
Oh, was he? Right. Well, I hadn't heard that at all, but I just think that it's one of those things that on a day like today it could work. And it's a bit of a risk, isn't it? But it's if it goes and they get on it, then you can really sack up. Yeah. The key thing is, where are the fish at the moment? And they need to be stacked up somewhere for somebody to really charge off. Otherwise, it's going to be a scratchy match. But you know what? It's game on. Let's find out on the bank what they're doing and if anybody is looking like they might catch any early fish.
Well, Hughesy, we're underway and we're looking across at Peg 11 Andy Power. The match is already, say, 10 minutes in, and, well, Andy Power's had one of those starts to a match that you can't quite believe. It's gone tremendously well for him.
Yeah, he went straight over to the island, fishing pretty tight up against it, and it is that Peg 11 that, we looked at earlier. A little bit narrow there, which means that he can get very, very tight up against that far side, and he was into a fish straight away. Unfortunately, it bust him. But then went straight back out again. I thought it was foul hook to begin with, to be honest, but he went straight out and nailed another one and ended up with 3 very, very quickly, which is a brilliant start. He's just had a put in there and it's not produced anything, which is perhaps a little bit of a worrying sign. Remember we said earlier that there was going to be a bit of a spate start for somebody. The question is whether or not they would hang on, and the risk that he's got there is that if they leave him, they're not likely to come back.
So here's Andy Power once again. Now he's already got 3 fish in the net, and you can see by the speed that he's shipping that pole back, there was a bit of a real burst of activity as he shipped back quickly to get the fish away from that snag. Just so we understand the peg that Andy's fishing, of all the pegs along that little island line, he's the only one who can actually reach the island.
Yeah, it's, what would it be, 14-ish metres to the far bank. You just see him pulling there on the puller cat. Decent fish. He's fishing pretty light by the look of that. There's a lot of skimmers around. There's quite a few little F1s, but every now and again there's the odd donkey carp too. So that looks like it's, I would say, I'm going to have a stab at that being an F1, I would think.
Right. Now, interestingly, that's obviously the peg that John Winkup won the match from here on Jenny's Lake last year. And the way that John's match went, he had a steady-ish start, but it kind of exploded midway through. He went from kind of middle of the field to outright winner in the space of 45 minutes. Just a load of fish showed up and he caught them, and he ended up almost doubling the weight of the person in second place. Andy Power has had a fantastic start. That's his 4th fish. He's probably already got 20 pound in the net.
Well, just looked at that one there. That was probably 4 pound, and that was a carp rather than an F1. So that was a decent fish. So if the others are like that, you're not going to be far off. And that is an amazing start. Bearing in mind we haven't got half an hour on the clock yet. Really, really good start for him.
Well, Hughesy, looking across now at Andy Geldart, the man who won the festival which leads into this competition. So £3,000 first prize for his victory in the festival. a former winner of this event, of course, Parkdean Masters champion, and he thinks he's got half a chance there. You can see he's slipping the net under what looks like either a small silverfish or one of the small carasio that live in this lake. But I'll tell you what's interesting is that the talk on the bank, the banter of the match anglers, all we can hear ringing along this bank is, has Andy Power got another one? Is he in again? Has he hooked something else? This match is going to be all over by 2:30. They know, don't they?
Well, you know, it really does rattle people, doesn't it? And this is one of the things with a good start. If you get a good start, then it just makes other people nervy. So Andy's just fishing his own match there. He's out on sort of a little bit of a point, but also set back from one side. So he's not necessarily looking at everybody else. He's just fishing his own match. Everyone else is now worrying about him, which is a brilliant position for him to be in. Let's look across there at peg 6 now, and that's Ian Fisk. He's, the old elastic's being stretched a bit there. He's attached to a lump. I'm not sure if that's in the mouth or the tail, or he's just fishing light, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's fishing light, but that's pulling him around a little bit there. It looks like he's got that back under control again now. We can see he's just got the puller kit out the side. Just pulling that elastic through the side of the pole for those that aren't sure what that is.
Landing net's going in.
Yeah.
I bet his heart's thumping. In all this company
He's getting
around
it. He's
him.
reaching over for it. He's got it. That was a very, very, very steady net there.
Wasn't it good? Look
Let's
at the
have a
size
look.
of this thing.
Yeah, that's a good fish. That's 6 odd pounds, isn't it? 6, 7 pound maybe, possibly even a little bit bigger.
Yeah. That's a real nerve settler. You know, that's instantly cancelled out every fish Andy Geldart on the peg next to him has caught in the last 35 minutes.
Absolutely. I would say in the bottom 10, as in the low numbers, 1 to 10 now, that's just one fish has just put him in the lead there. And if he has another one of those, he's going to be challenging up towards Mr. Power.
Andy Bennett's also had an interesting last few months, has been in 2 of those big finals and has been close, along with Andy Power. There's a real sense here of kind of unfinished business among these guys, and I know how determined Andy Bennett is to get into the position where he can win one of these big titles, because there's no question he's one of the best commercial anglers in the country. He just needs that on his CV, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. There's we say it in the internationals as well, there's a big difference between thinking you can win it and knowing you can win it, and he's got that fish there. That's a decent fish.
Well, Hughesy, we've made our way up to the slightly higher numbers. We're looking through the gap between the islands at Kevin Wodge on peg 16. We know he lost a couple early, but I've just heard from John Winkup, who is sitting behind us, that Kevin has probably got 28 pounds, and that is only 3 fish.
Yeah, that's a very, very good start. We've got a game on now, haven't we? Andy Power's catching a few down there, but the size of fish up here are bigger. And when you just look across at this peg, I said earlier that if I could do...
Just missed a bite.
If I could do, I would have an area of open water with a bit of island by the side of it. And this is exactly the sort of peg that we're looking at. You know, there's overhanging trees by the side. I don't know if the camera's just picked that up, but you can see ripples coming off there from the corner of the island. And what the fish will do is they'll retreat away from that bankside noise over there. They'll come over to this side. And this peg in particular has got absolutely everything that you would want. It's got the open water so you can cast over. It's even got the aerator with a post, so there's a feature in the middle of it. You've got the edge of the island to funnel the fish into you if they do go away, and you've also got the cover on that island. This to me screams where the carp are going to be, and it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't start running away with it if there's some big fish around.
The irony is, of course, that for the past probably 3 or 4 years in this match, peg 16 is the peg that everyone's wanted. It's been drawn and the match hasn't been won from it, and suddenly no one's talking about it. Kevin pulls it out, and he's feeding quite heavily, isn't he? You see big handfuls of pellet going in there.
He is, yeah. There's a lot of carp there, though, isn't there? I mean, just coming out towards this aerator now, there's a big carp just on the surface. There's another one just moved underneath the corner of the island. One thing that surprises me is he isn't coming a little bit further over to where they are, but actually he's fishing a very, very steady game, because he'll just be picking them up off the edge, and they'll soon smell that bait. They'll soon head over there, and picking the pack up from the edge as opposed to steaming in the middle of it just means that you're going to have a good match all the way through.
Keep them coming steadily all the way through.
Yeah. And let's have a look at the difference between this peg and Andy Power's peg. Andy Power's got fish in front of him, but when he's caught them or they move, where does he get his next lot from?
Yeah, that's it.
Whereas here, there are so many options to get passing traffic.
Now, there's a man that you can't ignore, peg 19, Des Ship, who
Never
is
heard
playing
of him.
fish. Yeah, I know.
Never heard of him. Yeah, he was up on his feet a couple of seconds ago, and he was playing the fish in, tip down, just reeling it very, very slowly in, and that's usually a sign of a big fish as well. He's on the feeder fishing over towards a little gap in one of the small islands. Again, these fish have been pushing back to this side, and anyone that's got a gap by the island will be able to pick that passing traffic up as it goes back into the area where they can start fishing for them. Net up there. Let's have a look.
I've seen him land another one about the same size about 20 minutes, half an hour ago. So there are one or two there.
Not ready yet. He's got it right under the tip.
You know, if Des is taking his time, it's a big fish too, don't you? Because he doesn't mess about. Now, you might have been able to pick up a little gasp from behind us, because while Des is playing that fish, Kevin Wodge has gone in again, his float's gone under, and he's playing another fish. But let's just have a look at Des to see if Des can get this one under control and get his net under it.
Eyes everywhere at the moment, and the reason there was a big groan or an ooh and gasp from the crowd was it was a proper pole bender, that one with Kev Wodge. Now, this is going to be a very interesting exercise now. Let's have a look at bite rate. Both of them have got big fish on. Both of them are in areas where they can reach through to where the big fish are loitering. Des has had his on now for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's up on his feet. Big splash in front of him there. Do you see that? God. And for Kev Wodge on his top kit, that's a two-hander. So he's holding on tight to the end of that top section. To me, that says that that's another big fish.
Absolutely, it's trying to make its way to Matt Godfrey's keep net, I think, at the moment. That fish there from Kev Wodge.
So who's going to land their fish first? I reckon if I was going to put a bet on it, would be Des at the moment.
I'm not convinced that's not foul. Look, there's a lot of splashing going on the surface.
Has he got it? Yeah, he's got it. He's got it.
Looked, just saw that it was splashing around on the surface there, Fordy, and I think that was actually foul. Looked, it wasn't quite as big as we thought it was going to be. That banging around there.
Steaming.
That's not far off a snapper. Oh.
Still got the presence of mind to feed while he's doing it. I love that.
That's it. Another 4.5 kilo of corn goes in.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm gonna have a little bit of a punt now at this stage, and I know it is really, really early. We've only got 25% of the game gone so far. If he's feeding that hard now, he's got a lot of fish there.
Yeah, that's right. You're spot on.
And if he's got that many fish there now, this could be a real surprise.
You're saying it's his to lose.
Well, no, because they can switch off. But he's not even coming into the area where the fish are. He's just picking them up off the edge.
Kevin's landed 2 fish and has missed 2 or 3 bites. Des has had a fish.
Oh, there we go.
Let's have a look at that. That's a big fish
That's
again.
A reason for it. I think that was in the peg. Yeah, taking it out the peg there. That's why it was a bit of a battler.
Good fish though.
Well, you know, they all count, don't they? And it's you'd like them to come in square, but that one hasn't. But it has come in. That's the key.
Sometimes when it's your day, those are the ones that come in, and the day when it's not yours, that they come off. And a lot of the guys say that. You know, you're always going to foul hook fish when they're feeding busily in your peg. It's the days when you land those foul hookers as well as the other fish that you catch. Sometimes that can be the difference between winning and losing.
Let's have a little look now at a man who's on a bit of a charge. We saw him a couple
bloke
of
next
moments
to the
ago.
tree.
Yes. Caught a fish a few moments ago. He's in more or less straight away.
That'll be his 3rd decent-sized fish again. He's taking his time, winding very carefully. Big bend in his rod.
We've got a game on here for
We have, haven't we? Sometimes you just get a feeling. It feels like I wasn't sure this morning when we turned up. You know, you get a feeling about whether it's going to fish well or not. I wasn't sure because the weather was a little bit odd, but there's just a little bit of a breeze. You know, it's a nice flat light. The fish are going to be pretty happy, I think, in these situations, and it feels like it's teeing off a bit. I think it's a really interesting competition.
They've started feeding and they're staying feeding in certain areas as well.
Looks like Des has got this one under control. He's a dangerous bloke when he fancies he's got a chance, you know. He's won so many big matches. Of course, has won this twice, one of only 2 people to do it, along with Harry Billing. Won it in 2007 and again in 2011. So he's due. He doesn't like it when he comes here and he doesn't win. He gets a little bit...
He doesn't like going anywhere and not winning.
Well, no, he doesn't like going anywhere and not winning. But he does moan a bit if things don't go his way. And I think that there's a chance that it might happen for him.
Well, it certainly seems to be this end which is where the action's
Yeah.
at, that's for sure.
So Des is still playing that fish. We're hearing that Phil Canning, who is a couple of pegs down on peg 14, so just behind the island, 2 pegs to Kevin Wadge's left-hand side, has had 5 or 6 fish too. Now we don't know how big those fish are as Des slips the net under that one.
Tell you what, Fordy, while you've been looking at Des, I've just had my eyes on Kev Wadge, and he's changing these fish in shallow. Now, the only reason I can think of for that is that he was having a few indications but missed bites when he was fishing on the deck with paste. He's been feeding very, very heavily. It may be that the fish are moving up in the water and he's going shallow now, but he's changed over onto pellet as opposed to fishing the corn. And I haven't seen him have a bite since. And, you know, this is one of those horrible situations where he just may have overgunned it on the bait a bit too much.
Lord. The other watchword that you get from the guys who are experienced in these big finals is keep it simple.
Exactly.
Pick something and make it work. And he was getting the pace to work, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, John Winkup has just joined us and we're looking over at Kevin. John, what's going on? Because he was doing pretty well on the paste. What's happened?
I've no idea. I can't believe he's come off it. He's got £40. We've just worked out 5 fish for £40, and he's come off that line. He's gone shallow over it, not had a bite because he's foul looked a couple. Got them in, so it don't matter. I can't believe he's come off it. Unbelievable. Get back on it, Kev.
We've basically got 4 different spots now as well, so you can see there's a little bit of nervousness coming in, and he's trying different tactics there. One of the things I'd like to speak to you about, John, is that having watched him for a while, where this aerator is and also where the bush is on the corner of the island, there's an awful lot of fish moving around there. Why isn't he coming a little bit longer as well? He's picking them off the edge, obviously, but just stretching a little bit might well do the trick.
Yeah, possibly. He did mention that before. He said if he started foul looking, he might go long, but to be honest with you, just stay on that same line. They're there. You can see he's getting liners, and just put up with it. Just put up with an odd liner, an odd foul looker. He's going to get more in. He's going to get more in when he loses.
He's baited very heavily.
He is, but that's how they do it. We've got the pace master, Carl Williams, with me, and that's his apprentice basically, and they love it. That's all they do.
It's interesting, he's feeding corn, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what they do. It's a method I've never fished. I can't get my head around it like a lot of anglers. They're all up there laughing and joking about it, but when it works, they absolutely destroy it. You can't touch him.
He's back on it now by the look of it, so he's abandoned that. Now this will be interesting to see if this goes straight under, because there were so many indications. So just to be clear, what he's doing, he's got a big lump of paste on the hook, a few grains of corn in the pot with it, and he's also loose feeding corn by hand. It's a lot of corn.
It's this corn mad, but it's such a strange method. Like you can't really get your head around it, but like when it works, like I say, it's madness.
Well, patience pays off, Winnie, because there's your mate Kevin Wadge, and there's a healthy bend in his pole. That's what he wants, isn't it? That's what he needs.
Yeah, that's exactly what he wants. He just waited that little bit longer. He didn't get so many liners, and he just got a proper pace bite. He just sat there dead still, never moved, and absolutely flew under 100 mile an hour.
We're hearing interesting bits and pieces from this end of the lake, actually, because from what we can hear, Jake Gallagher, who's right on the end peg on peg 23, has had 3 or 4 fish for mid-20s. And right next door on 22, Wayne Sharman might have about 30 pounds. So there are some fish down this end, and you know, if they can keep these fish coming, that's a good fish. Look at it.
Ghosty, I think. That's the difference.
Oh, Lord, what happened there?
That is a difference with pace. That's a huge
Look
fish.
at that.
Yeah, we like that one. We like that one.
That's a rob fish, that is.
Yeah.
Is
That'll
that
do
£8? Would you give that 8?
No,
10?
possibly even give that 10.
10. Are we giving it 10? So that's £50 he's got now in an hour and a half.
That's a Barney.
And that's the difference, isn't it? You know, when he fishes it properly, looking at the numbers of fish that are around there are some very, very big fish in this area. And it's all very well faffing around for these little silver things, but you ain't going to win 25 grand with them. You've got to get out for the carp, you've got to nail your colours to a mast, and you've got to settle. And we saw half an hour where he basically lost his nerve a little bit, had a rattle around elsewhere. He's come back, he's done the right thing, and if he holds it now, then I'll go back to what I said earlier, there's enough fish in this area for him to win it if he does it properly.
Well, we've reached the halfway stage, in fact just a little bit past it. This is a fascinating fishing match. We still think that Kevin Wadge is probably leading it. What else do we reckon?
Well, he's had an up and downer, hasn't he? But I think he's well and truly in there. The size of his fish are just good. There's a lot of big fish in front of him. Andy Power, great start, dropped off, managed to catch a few more since then. Is it going to carry on for him? We don't know at the moment, but we think he is going to be second or maybe third, 40 to 50 odd pounds. And then up here as well, another 40 pound weight here too.
Yeah, Wayne Sharman, who is one peg in from the end, and Wayne's had a steady match. You know, he's a very reliable, very solid angler. And this is his second big final of the year. He was in the final of the mega match this too, got a terrible draw, really didn't work out for him very well there. I think they didn't really fancy it at this end, but the wind's blowing in here, isn't it? You know, the breeze has got up a little bit this last half hour or so, and that could change a lot.
For me at the moment, I think probably Kev Wadge has got the advantage. It's an obvious thing to say because he's in the lead.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of fish in front of him.
Can we have a little chat about some of the younger anglers in this competition? Because that's one of the things about this final that's just blows you away, because people sort of say anecdotally, oh, it's a sport
Old
where
man
they're
sport.
on. Yeah.
Let's face
You
it,
know.
they call it an old man sport. It's not at the moment,
not.
is it? You know, there's a lot of 20 and 30 somethings here, and they're fiercely competitive. You know, let's have a look at the lad behind us, playing fish at the moment. Yeah, this is Jake Gallagher behind us now, 22 years old. Do you know that he nearly didn't fish? He's had a really, really good week, apart from one thing. He chucked a lead into an island, pulled for a break, and you might have noticed he's got a little plaster.
Yes, I did, yeah.
The lead went through his cheek.
Oh.
Actually, all the way in. They took it out from the inside.
Ow.
And he nearly went home, but he thought, you know what, I'm going to stay and have a go at it. And he's catching fish at the moment. We've got him pegged on about 25 pounds. But he's fishing a slow match, but he's fishing a steady match, and he's fishing for big fish. 60 to 70 pound is in the lead, without any shadow of doubt.
Couple of people you've got to keep an eye on. Des Ship, for one.
Yep.
You know, if it happens for him, he's difficult to catch. I know you always put money on Des, but there's a reason for that.
Yep.
Matt Godfrey, I think, has got a chance. I think that one person we haven't spoken about is Phil Canning,
Yep.
who's had a dozen fish and maybe up towards that 30 or 40 pound mark. But I've got to say, Hughesy, my money is actually still on Kevin Wadge, because he's got the water in front of him with fish in it.
Yep.
He's got the method that's been catching them. All he needs to do now for the rest of this match is keep his nerve. Well, Hughesy, we're approaching the last hour. Something very interesting is happening in this fishing match, because we're looking over at Kevin Wadge on peg 16, who an hour ago had 65 pounds. He has still got 65 pounds. His fish have cleared off. What on earth is going on?
Yeah, the old wheels have come off a little bit, haven't they? And, you know, we saw a wobble earlier where he came off the method. What should he do now? Should he stick with it? There's still fish around. They've just backed off this way a little bit.
In the meantime, Matt Godfrey, who has been fishing that long line with a running line for about the last 2 hours, is just about to land a fish. I'm amazed that Kevin's tip has not gone round. Panic setting in a little bit. But there's so much at stake here. You know, if he's on 65 pounds, which is what we think, there's a very good chance. All he needs is 2 fish to win the match, potentially. You know, there are others on 40 or 50, but they've got a little way to go, and especially if the fish that they're catching aren't as big. We've seen some of the fish he's had. There's some right lumps in his keep net.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's still an hour left yet. Now, the last hour is obviously the hour when a lot of the damage is done. But let's have a look around and see who's actually moving at the moment. And the answer is not really anybody. Matt Godfrey's catching a few, but he's catching 3 and 4 pounders. Doesn't seem to be anybody that's really shaking any trees at the moment. Game on again, 40.
Yeah, this is really interesting, isn't it? I mean, we knew that this was going to be a close match, but, well, it's come down to the last hour. We've just seen that Kevin Wadge, his whole match has just completely stopped. It's hit the brakes, and Andy Power, having had a half-decent start, is just starting to pick up 1 or 2 more fish. Now, Steve Martin, who photographs these events, has just walked along the far bank and has been along checking on the weights. And these are all the weights that the anglers have claimed. Now, as we know, match anglers are notoriously useless at claiming their own weights. But this is the list that Steve has managed to gather. Wayne Sharman, who is down on the end in the shallower water, 45 pounds. Kevin Wadge says he's only got 55. Now, that differs considerably to what John Wincup and the other guys watching across say. They reckon he's got 65. Interestingly, most of the others along that bank, the Des Ships, the Matt Godfreys, are all saying 30 pounds. Phil Canning, who's a couple of pegs up to Andy Power's right-hand side, is on 40. And Andy Power himself says he's got £55. Now, he's usually pretty accurate.
Absolutely. Now, that is game on if that's the case. So, you know, where is your money? There's more fish in front of Wodge. Power at the moment is a steadier angler. They're neck and neck. There's an hour left. This is going to be an amazing finish.
There's Des' ship just slipping the landing net under a small fish. And the key here is that Des is catching. So clearly a small carp or a little carasio, something like that, but not a big weight builder. But the thing is that Des is consistently putting fish into the net. Now, if he had £40 half an hour or so ago and has caught one of those every 5 minutes or so, there's a very good chance that he might be on the charge too, because it's pretty clear that both Kevin Wodge and Andy Power have ground to a complete halt.
Right, let's have a look now at what Kev Wodge is doing. Is he going to chuck it back out or is he going to go short again? And I think he should chuck it back out.
He's putting that one down. Is he going to go back on that short pole long? I think he is.
Let's have a look. Choices. The very fact it's taken him so long to pick up what he's going to put out indicates to me he's not really sure what he's going to do.
Yeah, his brain must be fizzing, mustn't it? So he's gone for, it looks like that's the paste rig.
Yep.
Because it's got that pole pot halfway down away from the tip. That's what he's caught all those big fish on earlier on in the match. His hope will be that when he drops this in, he'll start to get some indications. And this could be the moment that will win or lose Kevin Wodge this match, because if those fish are there and he catches 2 or 3 of them, I think it's game over for the rest of them.
Yeah, you know, it's jeopardy time at the moment, isn't it? You know, Kev's going to be concerned. We're all watching it thinking, my word, what's going to happen? He's still in the lead.
Yeah.
Everyone else has got to catch him, and if nobody does anything at all now, he's won.
Yeah, that's true. 15 minutes from the end of this match, and it's pretty obvious that both Kevin Wodge and Andy Power have ground to an almost complete standstill. And there is Des' ship on his feet. This is very interesting last little stage of the match, isn't it?
Well, just the nerves must be absolutely jangling everywhere. You know, Kev Wodge, just flying for the first 2 hours, died on his backside, that's it, nothing now. Absolutely nothing. That hour 2 to 3, nothing. He's thinking last hour will be all right. You know what? Still nothing. He's had an hour and 45 minutes now without a fish. That is a serious amount of time without a bite. Andy Power's got to be thinking, brilliant, now's my chance. This is my opportunity. There is effectively an open goal. You know what? He's not got the ball. Nobody's passed to him.
I love that analogy.
Des, he's like a heron over there.
It's a big heron.
Yeah. He's caught one, hasn't he, Close?
Yeah, I think he has, and I think he's fishing a big worm down the edge. Now, he'll have been priming that line the whole match, and, you know, with 15 minutes to go, if he's been pushing those small fish in, which they're a pound and a half each, you know, one every 5 to 10 minutes, he might have put £20 in his net. If he had 50 earlier on, he could be on £70. I don't think he's got that. But, you know, this is going to be so tight. We really just can't call it at this stage. So you've got potentially 3 anglers who are all in the similar postcode.
Oh, Phil Canning's just struck at something there, and we're hearing reports, oh, he's got a fish on. Now, this could be absolutely crucial. Phil Canning, in the last moments, has struck into a fish, and he's had a bit of a spurt. He was stuck behind the island. He was just out of sight of us. We thought that not a lot was happening, but we've just had reports through that he's catching, and he's put in 3 times now and had 3 fish in the last 15 minutes. Is this going to be a 0 to hero? Because he was there or thereabouts, but not really at the forefront of it. But 15 minutes towards the end of the match, and it's just started picking up, and this is the exciting finish. But my word, this is injury time.
Do you know the scary thing about this match is that this has happened before around there. A couple of years ago when Jamie Wild won the match, he came from absolutely nowhere. 3 fish in the last 20 minutes tied to the island, won the match from nowhere. Low weight match just like this, and I've got a feeling it might be in the very same peg that Phil Canning is sitting in now. Now he's reaching for his landing net. As I say, 3rd fish in the last 10 minutes or so. You know, it's when you catch in these matches as much as anything else, isn't it? If he had 50 or so pounds, we reckon there are 3 anglers on similar weights. So that's Andy Power's had a couple of fish the last 10 minutes or so. We know that Kevin Wodge has got a weight but hasn't caught for ages, and now Phil Canning is catching them both up. Brilliant match.
This is just absolutely incredible. There's a minute left on the clock. It's in the net. He's happy with that. What? Let's have a look at the size of it.
Oh, that's a good fish.
That's 3-4 pound.
No, it's bigger than that.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what, that just completely opens it back up again. We thought Kev Roger got it. Andy Power's come into fray, then stopped. And now this. 3 horses in the race. They are so close that there's no way that anybody can fall between them. There it is.
That's the end of the
It
match.
has gone, that's it. Game over. Wow, that has been an amazing finish.
Do you know the thing for me that makes it so interesting is as Phil Canning puts that preciously, carefully in his left-hand keep net, because that fish matters so much, we're not going to see a huge weight today, but that doesn't mean it's not been an interesting fishing competition. 4 hours of just brilliant quality angling between some of the best anglers in the country. Absolutely wonderful. What do you reckon, Macy?
Not quite enough. I think it's going to be close. I've got 15 carp, I think, but a few of them been small, so £75 maybe.
Seemed to be long periods in that match where it didn't quite happen, and I think that's been the same for everybody. This is really close, Andy.
Yeah, I know. I had a few fish early, then a couple right at the end. But yeah, I can't call it really. I think, well, by the sounds of it, Phil's just done it, but you don't know.
Oh, Phil, that was a match and a half, wasn't it? And that was an awesome ending for you.
Oh, unreal. Last 15 minutes, 3 big fish short on me. So yeah, bit nervy really, because every fish you need, make sure it counted like, so it took the time. And so yeah, it was pretty good.
What do you reckon? Have you got it, or has Andy got it?
I reckon Andy's just going to beat me with his last fish he had. But we'll see.
Funny, he just said exactly the same thing about you.
Did he?
So here we are then on peg 11. The first weigh-in that really matters in this match, and this is Andy Power. Now Andy reckons he's got 75 pounds. Is that going to be enough? It's going to be close, I fancy. Tense times. Andy Power's face tells a story. Didn't fancy his peg this morning, Andy. So here we go. So Andy Power, 79 pounds and 9 ounces. Is that going to be enough to win him the Parkdean Resorts Masters title? So peg 14, Phil Canning. £79.9 to be, and Phil says he's got £70, but apparently is terrible at estimating. And John Winkup says he's normally £20 out, so we will see. 3 fish in the last 20 minutes or so could be huge for Phil Canning. Shake of the head again. That's close. £75 exactly, so £4 and 9 ounces shy of Andy Power. Andy Power still in the box seat. One more angler to go. Kevin Wodge. Now, this is the sharp end of the match. He says he's only got 55 odd, but some of those fish that Kev was catching earlier on are enormous. Barely a murmur. Shake of the head. £58 for Kev Wodge. What's he got in the other net? Only 2 fish in his other net. I think he's blown it. I think it's Andy Power's win. This is amazing. Well, you've got to feel for Kev Wodge, because those fish were in front of him and they just cleared off for the last hour and a half of the match. He's barely had a bite. Must be heartbreaking. Well, maybe there is more than 2 fish in the net. Just a little carp. This is going to be close. This is going to be very, very, very close. 17 or 18. Well, he's done it. It looks like he's done it. It looks like Kevin Wodge has done it from nowhere. £81. Kevin Wodge from nowhere. Wow, what a fantastic achievement. So let's just get the formalities out of the way. The final total for Kevin Wodge is £81 and 15 ounces. Andy Power, who's had a summer of being nearly there, £79.9 in second. John Winkup, one of the first in to congratulate him. A great big smile. And Kevin Wodge has done it. Well, that's fantastic. Kev, how are you?
Over the moon.
Yes.
Absolutely over the moon. I didn't think I had that. I'm absolutely astounded. But them big fish weighed.
Big.
Speechless.
They weighed big.
Yeah, big pace fish.
Do you know, it was fascinating watching this match, because you had this match in your pocket for about 2 hours and then they just cleared off. What happened?
To be honest, I think we had the ripple coming towards me at the start of the match, and then it went flat calm, and I think it's just my cover's gone, if you like, sneaking me fish out, and they've gone. Literally, I've had a couple of fish in the last 2 hours from everywhere in the peg, and once again, I'm just shocked.
It must. I mean, it was agonising for us watching it. What was it like for you, for being on this end of the pole, knowing that those fish are cleared off and knowing that other people were catching you? What was that like?
It was a wonderful start. I thought it was the best field ever. But when they went, I saw Andy catching. I thought it's game over. I heard Phil had a big weight as well. Your head drops, and you've got to keep plugging away and just keep trying and go for it.
And you get your reward.
It's paid off this time, yeah. I've stuck to a game plan. I said I was going to fish paste. I thought I can't take on the big boys with the pellets and stuff, so I thought I'm going to fish what I fish and enjoy it. And I did enjoy it for the first 2 hours until it went a bit wrong, but fortunately it's paid off.